Hey guys, welcome to the first horror movie review for the final viewing of 2022. All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about the movie Scream, Scream 5, as it's probably known. First off, guys, let me just say that I don't hold the Scream franchise so sacred. To me, it's just an enjoyable franchise from Wes Craven. I think the only movie from his franchise that I love dearly is Nightmare on Elm Street. Granted, that wasn't directed by him all the way through, but Scream was up until this version. And that's one of the first things I want to get into about this movie is that since it is directed by I think either two or one of the guys from Ready or Not, and they also directed, one of them also directed the movie Southbound, which are also very fun movies. This film does have a different tone to it, and you can tell right off the bat. Even as the story progresses, it's not a typical Scream movie. Obviously, it's not done by Wes Craven, so there is going to be a slight touch difference within the way the directors approach making this movie, and with as they should, because you don't want to just rip off or replicate the way Wes Craven did it before. You want to add your own little flavor to it. Just the way it starts off, the way it continues on. I don't want to give out any spoilers in this movie. I thought one of the things that was lacking a bit in for this film was the comedic aspect. It didn't seem as funny to me. It didn't seem as lighthearted in the moments that it should have been. That's where I feel that the movie lacked a little bit for me in that aspect. I think all the new characters that they did bring in to push this franchise forward in this film, I think they did a great job. I do like the leads in this movie. The way it seems to me is that they leave it a little bit open ended to where they can kind of continue on with these characters, and that's fine by me. I mean, I wouldn't mind going to see the Scream 6 with these characters in it. Let's see how they would be able to bring them back. I mean, who knows? One of the big things, of course, are the quote unquote legacy characters, which are Sidney Prescott, Gail Weathers, and Dewey. It was interesting to see where Dewey was at this point. He seems a little bit like a lower point in his life. It seems like he doesn't want anything to do with that part of his life anymore. But yet, as the sheriff and as the person who he is in the Scream franchise, like he can't help but help people. And that seems like the kind of guy that he is. So like it was no surprise that he eventually did help the main characters in this film. Gail Weathers is a famous like news anchor, and of course Dewey and Gail are no longer together. Sydney Prescott is on her own, married with kids and a husband, just living in what seems to be a normal life. The one thing I did really enjoy about this film were the kills. They were brutal. They were it's hard to say fun, but they were entertaining. In the other Scream films, anytime there was a kill, there's always like a quick cutaway, or you don't see too much of the brutality going on. And this one, they kind of stuck with it, and I thought that was very interesting. And I can see that with the guys who directed Ready or Not, because that movie has a lot of brutal kills in it. And I was kind of happy to see that they kind of took that aspect and placed it in the Scream franchise, or in this entry, where the kills they just stay on the victim and the murderer when you see those knives going in one after the other. Like that was pretty intense, and I did enjoy that a lot. I thought the way they brought back the Ghostface killer was I didn't care for it too much. I mean, there has to be some person how they linked them together. I thought it was a little lazy, kind of, but I didn't have too many complaints about that. It just seemed like maybe it could have been done better. I mean, but how many times can you link Sidney Prescott or all the original characters to this franchise? It's gonna get difficult. Overall, for Scream 5, I would give it probably out of score of 10, probably a 6.5. It was a fun movie. It wasn't anything spectacular, but the kills are great. I think the characters did well. I didn't care too much about the way the killers were linked to the group or to the general story. I thought that was a little bit kind of lame. And the one thing I did miss about this movie, or the one thing I did miss in this movie, was the soundtrack. I felt the soundtrack was lacking too. The soundtrack was a little weak. The original scores themselves are really good. They seem consistent with the rest of the franchise, and I did enjoy that. But the actual songs that they chose to put in the film during some of those scenes or some of the transitions, I don't know, they just didn't hit as well. There was a little bit of a hint of Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, which was stems from the original Scream movie, which was a hint of it in there. just a little bit. That was cool. As far as the killers are concerned, I give them probably a middle of the range 5. I think the only thing I did like about these characters, or the killers themselves, the serial killers, were the brutal kills that they showed. I'm just glad we got to see some of these kills on screen, because all of the Ghostface killers are pretty brutal in the way they murder their victims, but we actually got to see it this time, and I thought that elevated the movie that much more. For Scream 5, what did you think? Leave a comment below. Do you agree with my take on it? With much as I could give without spoiling anything, which I don't want to do. For the year 2022, we're going to be talking a lot more horror throughout the year, not just in October primarily, but we'll be doing more horror movies, more in-depth discussions about some of these films that will be coming up. And if that's something you want to see, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.